Will that give a jolt of electricity inside the locker room?
It's not on the defense. It's on me. We had the ball with 6 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it was left. I lost us that game, and I cannot do that.
She's here. Taylor is in the house.
Shut up! Oh my God, I don't care!
The New York Jets are in trouble. Zach Wilson is more or less a carbon copy of what he was last year. His teammates are really angry at the fact that, well, he's a carbon copy of who he was last year, and the New York Jets don't seem to have a solution to this. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all of that out of the way, break! My friends, we had a
legendary weekend on Prize Picks.
Your boy personally made $700, and I only missed 2 out of 11 of my picks. And you guys hit me up in the DMs and let me know about it. We're about to ramp it up for this week. Remember, you get a $100 deposit match on Prize Picks when you use my promo code Mikerophone, and I post my picks onto my Instagram story at The Flight Mike for free each and every day that there's a football game. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mike check 1212. What's going on, everybody? Last week, when the New York Jets faced off against the New England Patriots, we saw a lot of similarities as to what happened last year when the New York Jets faced off against the New England Patriots. Yeah, there wasn't an interview where Zach Wilson did this.
As an offense, though, I mean, when you guys are only able to score 3 points, the defense only lets up 3 points. I mean, do you feel like you let the defense down at all?
No.
But once again, you saw Garrett Wilson visibly being frustrated on the sidelines. You see him trying to figure out the offense with Zach Wilson in a very animated fashion, which is very important because Garrett Wilson definitely wears his emotions on his sleeves. If you remember last year, Garrett Wilson kind of threw Zach Wilson under the bus once the New York Jets offense was underperforming.
Sorry. We out here looking sorry, man. And we know that we're not sorry. So that's why it really hurts, you know. We know that we're better than that. That's why it hurts.
And then he doubled down on it once again.
I definitely feel like it did. You know, I didn't mean any harm to anyone, you know, by saying it, and I don't think anyone took it that way. Luckily, you know. So you know, honestly, I feel like people was happy I said it.
Now, this year, the New York Jets were hoping for a different result. The plan was very simple, according to Aaron Rodgers. He was going to
be able to play a few good years here and then hand it right back off to Zach and let him go for the next 15, and it'd be a really special, 18 to 20 year run of great quarterback play.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Aaron Rodgers played about 4 snaps, didn't even make it through the 4th snap before his Achilles got torn. And immediately, there was a huge question about what the New York Jets should do from here on out. Robert Saleh's solution to this problem was just having tremendous faith and confidence in Zach Wilson, and I could understand why. I mean, the New York Jets have a revamped offense with new wide receivers. They went out and traded for Zach Wilson's favorite player growing up and a man that clearly embraced the mentorship role and has had success mentoring other young QBs in Aaron Rodgers. So I can understand why they decided to take this route, but also they didn't have much of a choice. Joe Namath recently caught waves by saying that the New York Jets should move on from Zach Wilson.
Somebody handed you Zach Wilson and said, okay, Joe, make him better. What would you do?
Send him to Kansas City to back up against somebody like Mahomes. Maybe he'd learn something. I wouldn't keep him. You know, I've seen enough of Zach Wilson. I've seen enough. Has quick feet, can throw a little bit, but I don't believe what's going on up there.
Telling them to ship him to Kansas City to back up somebody like Patrick Mahomes and maybe learn something. That would make a lot of sense because if you remember in the 2021 NFL draft, a lot of analysts were calling Zach Wilson the next coming of Patrick Mahomes. Get ready to hear that a lot this season, by the way, about Caleb Williams. Bear in mind, Aaron Rodgers is not currently in the building to watch Zach Wilson go through what he's going through. This was his reaction on the Pat McAfee show.
And lock in and do our jobs, everybody, and not point fingers at each other, and it's everybody. It doesn't mean you're winning all the time and you got to handle it the right way. It's when we're not having success, how do we respond? And that goes for our fan base and former players as well. You're not helping the cause.
But then there became this huge question, what should the New York Jets do? And I feel like Josina Anderson did a remarkable job nailing this issue on the head for the New York Jets. You see, last year, everyone knew what the New York Jets' problem was. It was very obvious. Zach Wilson wasn't ready to take over as the starting QB, which at this point, you're going into year 3. You know, you would hope that there'd be some sort of development from year 1 to year 3. Some people thought it could be a confidence thing. Whatever the reason may be, Zach Wilson clearly wasn't ready. So they went out and they traded for Aaron Rodgers, and thankfully they did it in a way where they could keep their first round pick this year, because that pick might end up being valuable. But you might be wondering, why aren't the Jets pursuing a more highly regarded free agent or trading for one? A player such as, I don't know, Colin Kaepernick, for instance. No, seriously, Colin Kaepernick is trying to play for the New York Jets. And I really don't think this is some sort of attention grab at all whatsoever, because Colin Kaepernick did everything he possibly can to make this not an attention grab. I mean, firstly, he sent the email to Joe Douglas of the New York Jets, but he had J. Cole release the email to the public. And don't get me wrong, I love J. Cole's music. I just wonder how J. Cole found himself in this storyline. Regardless, Colin Kaepernick actually wrote to the New York Jets saying, "Joe, I hope this letter finds you in great spirits. Despite the less than ideal start to a big season, I'm wishing you, your staff, and the players a great game this weekend as you look to bounce back. I'm writing, of course, in response to the unfortunate loss of Aaron Rodgers. I know the aspirations this season were, and still are, to win a championship, and so that Hall of Fame sized hole will need to be filled as best as possible to keep the team on a Super Bowl track. As of right now, Zach Wilson is charged with that task, and I wish him and the rest of the team the best moving forward. However, I know that there are currently depth issues at the position, and I've heard that the backup spots is likely to be filled by a veteran quarterback. As much as I would love the opportunity to fill that spot, I'm writing you in hopes that you can imagine a much different approach involving me. I would be honored and extremely grateful for the opportunity to come in and lead the practice squad. I would do this with the sole mission of getting your defense ready each week. If I were able to fill this role for the team, I believe this allows for multiple things. One, it gives your defense the advantage of getting a truer read on the more athletic, mobile, versatile quarterbacks it will face when in weeks 4, 5, and 6, Mahomes, Wilson, and Hurts. I would consider it a privilege to be able to do this and would take on this responsibility with the dedication and passion as if it were the QB1 position. 2, this would allow you guys as an organization to take a real look at where I'm at football-wise in game situations against an elite defense, while also not putting any competitive pressure on Zach. I understand the importance of keeping him confident and focused as QB1, and I would only look to boost that confidence in any interactions that we may have if I was given this role within the team. In a perfect world for the Jets, Zach Wilson finds his stride and shows that he is able to lead this championship caliber team that you've put together to the Super Bowl. I believe a confident Zach Wilson has the tools to do this. However, in the event that this is not the case, I would love to offer you a risk-free contingency plan. I am sure of my ability to provide you with an elite quarterback option if, God forbid, QB1 goes down. However, I know that there may naturally be uncertainties from you and possibly from others about my playing abilities. This plan, I believe, allows me to be of great service to the team as a practice squad QB, while also giving you a low commitment chance to assess my capabilities to help in any other capacity you may see fit. Worst case scenario, you see what I have to offer and you're not that impressed. Best case scenario, you realize you have a real weapon at your disposal in the event you ever need to use it. In either of these scenarios, I would be committed to getting your defense ready week in and week out all season long, and I would wear that responsibility like a badge of honor. As a final point, I would like to add this. Unlike many of the veteran QBs that have been named in the media, I've never retired or stopped training. My training schedule has remained the same for 6 years. Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. training on the field and in the weight room. I've kept this training schedule without failure for the past 6 years in hopes that an opportunity will present itself. I say this to give you some perspective on where I'm at physically. I have also attached a list of my references within the league that will vouch for my character, work ethic, and ability. Thanks so much for your time. Colin Kaepernick. References: Jim Harbaugh, Michigan head coach; Chip Kelly, UCLA head coach; John Harbaugh, and Mark Davis. Mark Davis is a very interesting one. I wonder how he got Mark Davis to vouch for him. So he pretty much listed his ex-head coaches, his ex-head coach's brother, and the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. And he released this via J. Cole. I personally think this is an attention grab because we all know the cons outweigh the pros whenever it comes to Colin Kaepernick. You sign Colin Kaepernick to your team, a guy that's about to be 36 years old in about a month and a half, and you're immediately going to get a lot of distractions in the locker room, and there already are enough distractions. Do you think Zach Wilson is going to feel more confident about himself after seeing Colin Kaepernick in the locker room? Do you you think Colin Kaepernick moves the needle a little bit more than Zach Wilson does? Do you think Joe Douglas, who was very vehemently against Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem, would be down with signing Colin Kaepernick? I mean, there's just so much in this, and if you ask me, if Colin Kaepernick truly wanted to return to football, and this wasn't just a gigantic headline grab from him, then he would have tried out for the XFL, because it's not like he's going to get signed to a huge contract here either. I mean, you would have went to the XFL or the USFL, you would have balled out in the XFL or USFL, and then there would be no choice but to sign you at that point. I don't think he's serious about returning to football. I just think he's trying to find a way to stay in headlines, but that's my personal opinion. According to Rich Cimini, tensions were rising in the Jets locker room leading up to this week's game, and this team could be ready to implode because Robert Saleh is coming off as a Zach Wilson apologist, and that isn't sitting well in the locker room. The Jets defense in particular is not happy. This defense knows that if any other player were performing his job the way Zach Wilson is performing his, that player would be benched. Trust me, there's tension in that locker room. I get the sense that this team could be ready to implode. I mean, you look at the footage from week 3, this is without even going into week 4, and it's obvious. You see Michael Carter exploding on the sidelines, you see Garrett Wilson kind of getting animated as he's talking to Zach Wilson, but it wouldn't just be Garrett Wilson and Michael Carter that are frustrated by Zach Wilson's performance. As a matter of fact, another running back on the New York Jets would be frustrated by Zach Wilson's performance, and this is actually a huge problem because Breece Hall would like this tweet that said, "What in the world happened to Zach Wilson?" But it wouldn't end there because Breece Hall would also like another tweet that responds to this situation. This one doctor, Jesse Morse, tweeted that through 3 weeks, here's the 2 stud running back stats who are coming off of ACL reconstruction surgeries. The first being Breece Hall, who has 26 rushing attempts, 154 rush yards, 5.9 yards per carry. But if you remove that 83-yard rush that he had, then he would be 24 for 71 yards with a 2.84 yards per carry. Now, someone responded to this saying, "I would argue the Wilson situation is significantly more of a factor than the knee. Bad teams get the box stacked on them." And the craziest part about all this is this isn't necessarily a secret at all. Willie Gay of the Kansas City Chiefs said point blank that the Jets' game plan is very clear.
When you look on tape, what are you seeing from Zach Wilson and their offense?
Damn. That was a hard question, I can't lie. The team that want to run the ball.
I mean, if you have a quarterback that can't throw the ball, can't make the right reads, and has a very, very good running attack, all you have to do is stack the box because you know that Zach Wilson isn't going to be able to make the right read anyway. You could get away with way, way more and just defend against the run the whole time. And then you hear Robert Saleh giving interviews like this, where Robert Saleh is completely reluctant to move on from Zach Wilson as his starting QB, making it sound like it wasn't even Zach Wilson's fault that they lost the last game.
Has Zach shown you enough to keep him as the starter going forward?
Yeah, he's fine. Right now, Zach is the best player in the he's who gives us the best chance to win. And, so that's basically that would be the cleanest answer I could give you.
At the end of the day, Josina Anderson makes a very good point as to why the New York Jets are rolling on with Zach Wilson. Watch.
There is a lot of frustration. My interpretation so much is not that the locker room is at a point of unzipping. There was an immediate understanding after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. This is the amount that we're already spending on a player that is not playing.
So according to Josina Anderson, the reason why the Jets aren't adding a more highly regarded QB is because they have budget concerns after going all in on Aaron Rodgers.
And you guys need to move forward with that understanding of those economics. You don't feel like we have the resources to necessarily approach this better than what we're saying.
This is all just leading up into this week 4 matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is by far the most terrifying game of Zach Wilson's career. Allow me to set the stage if we haven't done a good enough job catching you guys up as to what has happened over the past week leading up to this game. Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh are already in the cusp of losing the New York Jets locker room once again. Robert Saleh kind of looks like he has a gun pointed to his head as he's giving these interviews, maybe because Aaron Rodgers really likes Zach Wilson and believes in Zach Wilson. Bear in mind, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been in the Jets locker room for some time. Maybe that has something to do with it. But now the New York Jets are pulling up to play the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. And you know what the best part of all is? Guess who's going to be in attendance? Taylor Swift.
I know, it's crazy. Oh my God, Taylor Swift. Ah!
That's the main reason we're all watching, because of Taylor Swift. We want to see how many times the camera pans over to the stands to see Taylor Swift cheer for Travis Kelce as he scores a touchdown. And although you might be thinking I'm joking, no, seriously, that's why a large portion of people are going to be watching. So to give you an idea of what the Taylor Swift effect was on the Kansas City Chiefs during week 3, 24.3 million people tuned in to watch the Kansas City Chiefs clap the Chicago Bears. It was the most watched NFL game on any network in week 3. Fanatics saw a 400% surge in Travis Kelce jersey sales, which made him a top 5 selling jersey in the NFL. Kelce's Instagram grew by 400k followers. Kelce's podcast New Heights climbed to the #1 spot on the Apple charts, and there's a 3-fold increase in searches for Chiefs tickets on StubHub. I personally matched a woman on Hinge that said I want to go to my very first NFL game. I asked her if she's a Swiftie. She said yes. I asked her if that's the only reason. She said maybe. So yeah, the Taylor Swift effect adds significantly more viewership on this particular Sunday night football game where Zach Wilson is already having confidence issues and has a ton of eyeballs on him. So how's that going to work out? The Kansas City Chiefs offense looked like the Kansas City Chiefs offense to start out the game. Isaiah Pacheco scored the first touchdown of the game off of a 48-yard rush. And man, just look at the intensity that this guy runs with. The Jets would go 4 and out, which would result in the Chiefs getting the ball back, where they would run a 6-play drive that would result in a Noah Gray touchdown. Immediately, 17-0 to start out the game. But things would get very weird and very interesting. And I have to admit, it's not something that we were expecting. Jawaan Taylor would get called for a holding penalty. It seems like referees are finally spotlighting him after what he got away with in week 1, which would result in the Jets scoring their first points of the game, a safety, resulting in it becoming 17-2. As a result, the Jets would get the ball back, which would result in a field goal. Next thing you know, the score 17-5. But here's where it would get very interesting. Following the field goal, immediately Patrick Mahomes would give the ball back to the New York Jets, throwing an interception that was very uncharacteristic of him. And it seems like at this point, Zach Wilson really turned his game up. I think someone told Zach Wilson that right next to Taylor Swift in that presidential suite is none other than Travis Kelce's mother, Donna Kelce. And at this point, we saw the dog within Zach Wilson. A 7-play drive for 41 yards that resulted in a touchdown, in which Zach Wilson kind of did his best Aaron Rodgers impersonation on this play action. So you could definitely see some of Aaron Rodgers' influence in Zach Wilson. I don't know if it's the fact that he's on the sideline, but the biggest talking point, at least at the half, was the fact that Zach Wilson was outplaying Patrick Mahomes. I mean, up until that point, Patrick Mahomes went 8 of 16 from the field, throwing 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Very uncharacteristic of Patrick Mahomes to do so. Zach Wilson went 18 of 26 and threw for 141 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and no interception. At the half, Zach Wilson had a 95.2 rating compared to Patrick Mahomes' 60.2 rating. Zach Wilson would open the second half swinging, and my jaw was at the floor when I was watching this. Coming out of the gates with a beautiful deep ball to Tyler Conklin for 25 yards. Later on in the drive, finding Jeremy Ruckert for 23 yards before finding Garrett Wilson for 10 yards, and then eventually a beautiful, accurate throw with the anticipation to Allen Lazard for a 10-yard touchdown. The icing on the cake on this drive was the 2-point conversion where Zach Wilson quite literally dove into the end zone to tie the game at 20 apiece, which coming into this game, I was not expecting him to do, especially against this Kansas City Chiefs defense that has been lights out this season so far. The performance that we've been seeing from Zach Wilson tonight very much exceeded our expectations and really set the tone for the rest of the game for the New York Jets. In the fourth quarter, the New York Jets would have the opportunity to drive the football down and potentially take the lead or even tie the game, and they had the momentum to do so. Unfortunately, Zach Wilson's first mistake of a fairly masterful game came at a very inopportune time, where he would fumble the football at his own 47-yard line. The Kansas City Chiefs would get the ball back, and they would go on a very controversial drive. I mean, on 3rd and 13, Jawaan Taylor would get called for holding, and it would get knocked back to 3rd and 23. On that 3rd and 23, Patrick Mahomes would scramble for a first down, but the referees would miss, like a clear holding penalty by the Kansas City Chiefs left tackle. Further on into the drive, the New York Jets would actually pick off Patrick Mahomes for the 3rd time, but Sauce Gardner would get called for a defensive holding penalty, and as a result, play would come back and it would be an automatic first down. This, without a doubt, lost the New York Jets the game. It's a very difficult pill to swallow because this is one of the worst performances I think I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes have. I don't know if he was sweating because Taylor Swift was in the suite. I don't know if it's the fact that he may miss Eric Bieniemy. I don't know if it's the fact that the New York Jets defense really lived up to their billing in generating pressure on Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if he feels like he needs more wide receivers, but I have to admit, I don't remember the last time I've seen Patrick Mahomes throw a 2-interception game, 3 interceptions if that controversial holding penalty was not called. Regardless, I know some of you guys don't believe in moral victories, but I believe if you're a New York Jets fan, this game had a moral victory. At the very minimum, flashes of Zach Wilson's potential. It wasn't as painful as it was last year, and he did it against a very, very good defense. So you have to give credit where credit is due. My opinion on Zach Wilson is certainly starting to change, and I'm rooting for the guy. I mean, this man went through a significant amount of adversity and played a really good game, and it was almost mistake-free until the unfortunate fumble that he had. Let me know what you guys think about this game in the comment section down below. If you're a Jets fan, do you have some more optimism in Zach Wilson? Are you more optimistic after seeing Aaron Rodgers being able to walk the way he is? Or do you feel more of the same? Do you feel like those penalties were BS? Or if you're a Chiefs fan, do you think the holding call was warranted? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.